Off-Grid Aaron here. It is January 28th, 2022. Vlog number 28. Before I took off on my little walk and talk like I usually do, I do a little messing around with the tarot again. Yeah, despite my complete and total lack of respect for deities, I still like to mess around with tarot cards. I don't know. It's I find them thought-provoking. I don't know what else to tell you. Anyway, let's see what they got for us today. Plus, I think for shits and giggles, it might be fun to draw cards whenever I'm talking about any particular subjects, dealing with current events. I'm a curious fellow. I can't help it. And this is one of the few things in the supernatural realm, as it were, that has proven itself at least worth further study. I'll give it that. It's worth further investigation. And it's not like I'm centering my whole life around it or making really any decisions based on it at all. It's not, well, I guess maybe. So people always make the mistake of thinking that the tarot cards are for fortune telling, which they are not for fortune telling. They are a mirror for the soul, which is titled one of the best tarot card books by Gert Ziegler, Mirror of the Soul, which I forgot to get a copy of ready before I started doing this, so whatever. Oh, let's see what we got. Ooh. The Hanged Man, number 12. Well, today's the 28th, so that doesn't mean anything to me. I like the Ankh. I forget what the Hanged Man means. We'll get back to it later, maybe. There's a lot of meaning behind these things. What's his name? Aleister Crowley designed this deck. And every part of, well, he just, okay, so I guess he did it with this woman who did the art, and then he did the meanings or something, or directed the use of symbolism and that sort of thing. I don't know. Would have liked to have met Aleister Crowley. And Israel Regardie. Was it that Aleister Crowley studied under Israel, or Israel studied under Aleister? I believe Aleister was Israel's student. I'm going to have to look that up. I was really into the occult, esoteric in general. Still kind of am. True esoteric study doesn't really involve deity worship. Doesn't really, I mean, I'm not going to say it doesn't involve deities, because you invoke the names of a lot of things when you do these different spells and incantations and conjurings, or what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of it right now. Whatever. But a lot of it relates to Kabbalah, which is I don't know if it's so much a branch as more of like the core basis upon which Judaism is built. So, I mean, if I was going to say I was religious, I mean, I'd pretty much have to say I'd go with Judaism. It's like, I want to be Jewish. They're the only ones that have like a religion that there's so much more to it than people realize. There's so much more to Judaism than people realize. It's incredible, really. And it's very intriguing. It's very interesting. And it's very surprising if you ever go to Israel, which I lived there for 8 months in Haifa. Not that many of the people are very religious. Most of them are what they term secular. Like they don't have a religion. They don't believe in religion. They don't give a crap about it at all, unless You ask them about the legitimacy of the state of Israel, at which point they all suddenly become very Jewish. it's it's very interesting to see and experience. I didn't just live in Haifa for 8 months. I worked in a bar in Haifa for 8 months. It was owned by an Israeli and frequented by all Israelis. Arabs didn't hang out there, but my girlfriend came there a couple times. She is Arab. She was Druze, which is this one. Their religion is Druze. They're Arab. They're not Muslim, I don't think. They're very strict with their women though, and like they actually do. You've heard about those honor killings? They actually do that shit over there. And the Israeli government like looks the other way when they do it, because the deal is with the Druze people is whatever their belief is doesn't really matter. The point is that they have a deal with the Israeli government that all of their men fight in the Israeli military, and so the Israeli government just kind of gives them a pass when it comes to like running people out of their homes and making settlements and generally making life for Arabs in Israel like, very unfun. It's pretty heavy. It's a pretty heavy place. At the same time, it's weird too because it's really beautiful. Israel is gorgeous, and I actually lived. Haifa's it's a port city, so it's right on the Mediterranean Sea, and most of it is on a hill that's kind of like on a peninsula into the Mediterranean Sea. So it's hard to live anywhere where you're not overlooking the Mediterranean Sea. It's beautiful. And I lived in this house, this little apartment that was like midway up the hill. We were right next to what's called the Baha'i Temple, which is another random religion that's very popular and has a very strong footing in the state of Israel. It's a beautiful temple. Just check it out on Google. It's gorgeous. Baha'i. It's a B-A apostrophe H-A-I, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, it was an interesting time. There's a cool bar there too. It was a kind of blues, classic rock bar. They had a lot of live bands there all the time, and they had open mic nights, and it was fun at first. At first, it was really fun. At first, I was the cool American that was just hanging out for a while. And so everybody was like, pretty cool with me. But no one, I wasn't worried about dating anybody at the beginning because I had a girlfriend. And that's why I was there in the first place. I met her while I was in India. At the tail end of a 2-year trip to India. And we fell for each other really hard. And she wanted me to come to Israel, so I went to Israel. I do things like that. And I'm glad I did. The relationship didn't work out for a lot of reasons. Some of them my fault, some of them hers. It's whatever. She made promises and didn't keep them. Anyway, whatever. Doesn't matter. Shit happens. C'est la vie. Cool part is I went to Israel. It worked at a really cool bar that was right down by the port. At the bottom of the hill. Cats. They have cats in Israel like New York City has rats. Not an exaggeration. And they treat them the same way. They're considered vermin over there. Nobody keeps cats as pets. They're everywhere. Running around in the street, hanging out in the alleys, eating out of dumpsters. It's weird. It's very weird. And then in India, they have dogs like New York City has rats. And they treat them like vermin. It's so strange. And that was not cool. I had a hard time dealing with that. Because you would see like really messed up dogs. Like there was one time when I was in New Delhi, and I saw this dog walk by me, and I'm not kidding. Its top of its skull was gone, and you could see its brain. And it was just sitting there like cooking in the sun. And this dog was just trotting around like nothing even happened. It was so weird. It was just trotting into Dhaba after the little side shacky restaurants that are like everywhere. India is such an interesting place. If you get the opportunity to go there, I highly recommend it. I mean, I don't know what it's like now. I was there in 2007, 2005 to 2007. And people would tell me that it was not as cool as it used to be, but I still had an amazing time. I definitely recommend heading up north and spending as much time as you can in the Himalayan mountains around Rishikesh and Manali, and definitely go all the way up to the most northern state, Leh Ladakh, the city of Leh, and if you can, get yourself an Enfield motorcycle and ride up to Kardungla Pass, which is one of the highest motorable roads in the world. I went up there twice. The second time we went up because we ended up running into this television crew from India's version of MTV called the V Channel. I met this girl, Juhi Pandey. Oh my God. I'm so in love with her. Anyway, we ended up doing a thing where they filmed us going up to Kardungla, and she rode on my motorcycle on the back with me, and then her television crew followed her in another car, and her producer actually rode up on the back of the motorcycle with one of my friends, and that was one of the best days of my life. That was such an awesome day. We just like the whole ride, like it's this amazing, unbelievable scenic journey going up to this pass on a motorcycle. And then I had this really amazing woman on the motorcycle with me, and we were just hitting it off like you couldn't believe. Just having the best conversation about pop culture and everything that we were into. And it was honestly, I can't even remember exactly what it was. I think we spent a lot of time just talking about what we liked and didn't like, and we were just like really on page with each other. That's mostly what I remember from it. And just that was, oh, jeez. Man, Indian women can be really fucking sexy. Holy shit. She was one of them. Damn. Yeah, that was a good day. That was a really good day. Today hasn't been a bad day. You know, one of the reasons I pulled the tarot cards out was because I've been meditating a lot more lately. And I don't know if anybody else has this experience, but when I meditate, not even when I meditate, if I just like focus on it, I can like drum up a sensation of energy like within myself that I can physically feel, and like move it like up and down my spine and into like where I imagine my pineal gland is. And I know, like, you know, all the different chakras, like your root chakra and your sex chakra and your sun energy chakra. What do they call that one? There's a specific name for it, I forget actually. I should look that up again. But then it goes your heart chakra, and then your creative or voice throat chakra, and then your spiritual third eye pineal gland purple chakra, and then your Godhead top chakra. It's a fun little thing to do if you're really into meditation, to like focus on those energy points within your body. And it's swear to God, hands down, you know, I don't know what to tell you, but when I do that, I can physically feel it inside of me. And it energizes me. Like, it makes me feel energetic and, like, puts a little spring in my step. And so I've been kind of hopping and skipping around all day today because I did that this morning as I was walking into town. We did a town run today. Took the dogs with me, so I walked. Walking on rocks over the water. So it's really an optical illusion when Jesus walked on water. He was really just walking on stones and nobody could see them. It could be. It could be. You don't know. You don't know. You're just like, yeah, I was walking on water. Yeah, for sure. I went near the places. I read this really interesting book when I was in India called Jesus Lived in India. And it talks about how supposedly the missing years of Jesus' life before he turned up and became the Jesus everyone knows and loves and pretends to know everything about, but really has extremely varying views on that no one really talks about. Whatever. Never mind that. So anyway, supposedly his missing years were spent in India with different, I think with the Buddhists actually. Yeah, it was at Buddhist temples where they supposedly had records of someone named Issa or something like that. I don't know, which was supposed to be like Jesus' real name or a name he went by while he was in India. The people in, what's that place, Kashmir, they believe Jesus is buried there. Like, they have a big old temple and like a physical like burial chamber where everybody, hundreds of thousands of people, what's the word they call? The word for when you go on a pilgrimage. People go on pilgrimage to this place and visit the grave of Jesus Christ. So, hey Christians, hey, did you know your freaking Savior is buried in Kashmir? That was another thing that was strange about Israel. One, okay, when I went there, I flew in to Amman, Jordan, and I had to take a bus to get to Israel, and the bus didn't take me to Haifa, which is where my girlfriend lived. It took me to fucking Nazareth in the middle of the night and dropped me off by a baseball field. I got dropped off by a baseball field in Nazareth, the birthplace of Jesus Christ. All right, this was before I like really came to terms with a lot of things religiously. I was still pretty open to the idea of the existence of God, and that maybe even the Jehovah's Witnesses might still be right. And so this was kind of a weird thing for me to be visiting the birthplace of Christ and be staring at a giant fucking baseball field. It was so surreal. I don't know how to explain that any better, but it was strange. It was so strange. And then my girlfriend came and picked me up and took me to Haifa. I didn't visit a whole lot of other places. I spent most of my time in Haifa. I went to this one ancient burial chamber for somebody. Oh, I forgot about that. I went to the literal physical location of Armageddon. I went to Tel Megiddo. And there was a gift shop. I have physically seen the location of Armageddon and there's a fucking gift shop. I am not kidding. I'm telling you, man, Israel's a weird fucking place, man. And it's not weird because of who lives there, but just because so much different history and culture is attached to that place. It doesn't matter who you are, going there has an effect on you. It can't not have an effect on you. Set aside the fact that there's like all the tension, between the Israelis and the Arabs, which is there but not there. I don't feel like I felt that tension. There's an obvious segregation, like not really, because where we lived was lots of Israelis lived like all in the apartments where we lived. But again, she was Druze, which is a totally different situation. But at the same time, they don't hang out together that much. But she had a friend who was Israeli, and she had an Arab boyfriend. But aside from that, Israelis pretty much just stuck with Israelis. Like everybody I worked with at the bar, they all hung out just with other Israelis. Only Israelis went to that bar, except for the couple times that my girlfriend went there. It's not that they weren't allowed, and nobody freaked out when my girlfriend came. I think I asked in advance. It was one time was for New Year's. But then they have, Arab areas and they have Israeli areas. And I'd say one thing that was strange was there's a lot of Israeli cultural centers that used to belong to wealthy Arab families. And my girlfriend, as we were driving around through Haifa, would point out all these different places that used to be the homes of different, middle class to upper class or high class even, Arab families that when the Israelis came and took the state, they ran those people out of their homes and so like, straight up, that's like what they were doing right out the gate. They came from Nazi Germany, from being run out of their homes and enslaved and tormented and murdered, and immediately did that to the Arabs in the state of Israel. So you can kind of understand why the Palestinians might be a little upset. I find it understandable. I mean, it's not like anybody had the right to give it. It was given to them by England. Some lord. I forget what his name was. I used to know. A lot of history there, man. It's a lot of history. If you look it up, it's very fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. And it's a fascinating place. Oh yeah, so I went to Jerusalem for a minute. I think. Yeah, like we went there on a special... Yeah, me and my girlfriend made a special trip to go there one day. So I could see it and hang out. That was alright. I don't really remember that much from it. And I went to Tel Aviv for a few days, but that was like right before I left. Tel Aviv's fun. It's a cool place. They have a really cool hostel there. That's where I saw the movie Juno for the first time. And the beaches are awesome. And if you think there are hot women in LA, go to Tel Aviv. Holy shiboli. That's the other thing about Israelis. They have some of the most amazingly gorgeous women I have ever seen in my life. But if you want to sleep with them, you have to go to India, because they will not sleep with you in Israel. That's another weird thing. I went to India. I met more Israelis in India than I ever have in my entire life, because it's a super popular place for them to go after they've done their military time, which they all have to do immediately after high school. They all have to serve like 2 years or something. And so right after that, a lot of them go and travel the world to like get themselves over that trauma. That's how they deal with their PTSD. They go to India, or a lot of them go to Argentina and Europe and America. You'll meet them all over the place in Northern California. They come here for trimming. But India, they come there so much that there's certain parts of India where the signs are all in Hebrew. Not kidding. Paharganj and New Delhi, all over Manali and Rishikesh, Goa. Whew, that's like living in Tel Aviv at some points. So yeah, I met a lot of Israelis. I met a lot of Israeli girls, and they all love me. I had some more Israeli women than I can even remember, and it was awesome. And then I went to Israel, and after I broke up, me and my girlfriend broke up. I didn't break up with her. It was a mutual thing. We were both done with it. That was intense. Arab women are intense, and I understand that. Like, I really didn't think about that at the time, but in retrospect, it's like I really didn't. fully take into consideration the effect. Anyway, whatever. That's a story for another time. She's a beautiful person. And yeah, still have complete total respect for her as a human being. That sort of thing. It was intense. So yeah, so anyway, after that I was trying to get somebody else because I was me. And they wouldn't have anything to do with me. Would not have anything to do with me. It was like pulling teeth just to get a date. It was so weird. Yeah. Anyway, I got tired of that and finally said, okay. I was broke, didn't have a way to get home, but it turns out if you're in a foreign country stranded, you can go to the American embassy and they will fly you home and then take your passport and not give it back until you pay them back. Or wait a really long time. Anywho, that's enough for today. Bye.